So talking about dristi. Dristi is a Sanskrit word, and it means point of focus, right? When you're doing your yoga poses, there's always a place that you want to have your focus. There's always a place where you want your focus to be, okay? Whenever you're doing a yoga pose, and you want to hold that focus the whole time. So, talking about how this dristi applies to your spiritual life and how you go about your spiritual practice, okay? So, there are a lot of different things that you can explore when it comes to spirituality and in yoga most especially. There are a lot of different type of yoga styles, okay? There's a lot of different material on yoga. There's a lot of different material on different spiritual practices. So much information out there, right? What we want to do is establish a dristi with our spiritual practice, a point of focus, one thing that we're focusing on. Okay. I'm going to use myself as an example. So the in yoga, when I first started doing yoga, I read and a lot of different material on yoga. I read the Bhagavad Gita. I read the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. I read a lot of different anatomy books. I read the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. I read a whole lot of stuff. And what really resonated with me the most was the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali because it is the oldest text that you can find, oldest complete text you can find on yoga. And I read it and it really I was like, yeah, I like this. I like the way, I just like it. This makes sense to me, right? So in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the second chapter of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is yoga sadhana, and it talks about the practice of yoga. It talks about practicing yoga. It's like this is what you do. This is how you practice yoga. Okay. Inside of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, inside of the second chapter, there are the eight limbs of yoga. Okay. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. The eight limbs of yoga. When I started to do a really in-depth study of those, I was like, damn, these really resonate with me, right? So I'm digging more and more into the core, and then studying, reading, and understanding. And there's a Yoga Sutra. It's the first sutra in chapter two. It says what we're practicing is Kriya Yoga, and to practice Kriya Yoga, you need three things. The first one is Savadya, self-study. Tapas, discipline. And Ishvana Prahidaha, surrender to the divine. My focus in my practice, my dristi in my spiritual practice are those three principles: self study, discipline, and surrender to the divine. Those are the three things so everything else that I do, I center around that. I center around the eight limbs of yoga, right? Though the eight limbs of yoga, those three principles, those are what my core is. That is my dristi. That is my point of focus. That's what I study. I try to come to an understanding of more and more every day. There's so much to learn about it. I'm always digging deeper. And if I look at another um, type of spiritual practice or meditation technique, whatever it is, I always see how it applies to my dristi, my point of focus, my personal spiritual practice, right? So that's something that I highly recommend for people because you're going to get the most progress if you stick to one thing. Just stick to one thing, have one dristi, have one point of focus, and really dig in, really dig in. And that's where you're going to get That's where you're going to realize that all of it is the same anyway. All of it is the same anyway. At its core base, all of it is the same. Look at all of these different types of religious faiths, beliefs. All of them at the core, they're all the same. Find out what works best for you, and then drill down into it. Right, drill down into it. For me, it's yoga. It's the eight limbs of yoga. It's the three principles of self discipline, or the three principles of discipline and self study, and also surrender to the divine. And then the eight limbs of yoga. That's my jam. It so resonates with me. I love it. I love studying it. I love learning about it. That's my point of focus, my drishti. Find your point of focus, your drishti. Right? So, any questions, comments, or concerns, you know what to do. Until then, my friends, peace.